Good afternoon, Code Simplifier tribes. Behzad is here with another video for beginner programmers. In today's video, we are going to develop our program and we are going to extend our password checker program. What does that mean? We are going to create a file. We are going to record every attempt the user going to enter their password, and at the end we are going to show them if their password is strong, is weak, is contain number or letters only, and we are going to show them how many times they attempt to enter the password, which was less than 6 characters or greater than 10 characters. In my previous video, I explained about the file, how you can create one, and what is the purpose of creating a file. And as you see here, I already developed my program, which is you don't need to be worried about because we are going to go through it together step by step. So the first step you need to do, just create a pyCharm file or a Python file in a location of your project. Wherever you save your previous projects, go there and create a file. If you don't know how to create a file, you got two ways to do it. The first one is creating a file in a location. For example, you just put it here, create a text document, name it password checker 4, and before you pressing the enter, just change the format to py in the lower cases, which it will create it to a pyCharm file. If you double click on that one, it will open up the file as in your pyCharm environment. The first step we need to take, it will be recording the date and time, because we want to know when the user entered the password, the date and the time for it. Date and time, which it gives us a date and time class, which we can access to the calendar. Once we imported our date and time class, now it is the time to creating a folder name. So just come below your import, create a file name. It could be password attempt file. The reason we create our password writing our capital letters, it will be because that is going to be a constraint variable. That means the constraint variable is a value that won't change during our program and is uniquely been set up for holding that information. So then you're going to have double quotation and we name the folder or the file which we are going to create. Just write down password ATT.txt, which it will create a folder or a file which we can access that file or the folder or the document using this name. Once you click it, now here we have to specify the minimum length for our password and the maximum length for the password. So you write down min password pwd and lngth equals to 6. You could put the minimum length of the password to any number you want. For sake of this video, just enter it to 5 or whatever you want to use and let the user to enter for. Then we have the maximum, so I can just copy this. To copy the line, you hold on the Control W twice and it will select the line for you. Control C, come down, Control V, and we need to change the min to max, and the length is going to be 10. As I mentioned earlier, the reason you're writing down a pseudocode for your program, it will be first you understand what you have to do next. Second, it will be able to easily debug your program. But do not worry about the pseudocode for now much. Then once we develop our programs, once you see the programs, the end result, then you will understand what is the pseudocode for and how you can take advantage of writing down the pseudocode before writing your codes. So now we're coming down, we just write down def password checker and quotation mark. Then you're coming down here, write down password checker, and that's it. So what is a def? Def is basically an object. As you know, the Python is object-oriented language. That means you can create your objects and using those objects over and over again to just stop repeating yourself for doing the same task over and over again. That's why the def is an object that we will be able to use along our programs whenever we want it. But for the purpose of this video, because we have one activity and doing one thing, it's a good introduction to it, and we're not using it much. Just I want to make sure you understand how is that work. So once we have we're creating our, sorry, just finish this one. Then once we finish our object oriented, now is the time to ask the user to enter their password. So you're creating your variable name as a password equals to input. Then ask what we have to do. Enter your password, double quotation. So the password is our variable, and the variable, what it does, it just in a console shows the user they need to enter a password. So then the length of the password, as you know, the Python or the pyCharm will store it as a string. To be able to get the length of our password or whatever the user is going to enter, we need to just count the character of the password which the user is going to enter. That's why we need the length. We need to create another variable. That variable is going to be equivalent to the length of the password. So it sounds too much information, but once we expand our program again, step by step, I'll come back and I'll explain to you what everything does mean and how you understand what you have to do and how to do it. Here we just write down a password length equals to the length of the password. So the password length is another variable which the value equal to this variable, it will be the length of the password that the user is going to be entering through our program. For example, if the user is going to enter a password, let's say write down code. The code has 4 characters and the length for that variable, it will be 4. And if they're going to extend a bigger word, a longer word, then we will count the letters and we're having it. The reason we need to having this variable, because we have to compare our variable as an integer to the length of our password, which we identify here. Then that is ready. Now we have to check the password entered by a user meets our requirements. That's why we need to write down a while condition, which while condition it checks if the condition of the entry of the program which we write is true or if it's not. While the password length, which is integer right now, is less than minimum password length, or password length is greater than maximum, that means something is going wrong. The while and this condition has to be true to go through the other steps. That's why we write it down in the way of we want to check it. If that one of those conditions is correct, then we need to check one more time. If the password was less than 6, that is the reason. Reason password invalid equals to password less than 6, comma, and a space. Then you're coming down here, then we have our else, if is going on here. So first, the condition we are going to check if the password entered by the user, the length of it or the number of the characters is less than 6 or less than 5, sorry, or is greater than 10. I do apologize, guys, because I forgot to open the folder at the beginning of the program. So basically, I have to write down the program why we have to just basically create the folder or the file and then start writing on it. That's what I forgot to create it at the beginning. So here above your while, just write down a password file equals to open. Here's the file we got here. We got a password attempt file. Copy the name. And once we open that file, what we're going to do with it, we are going to write in it. So that's why you're just doing comma, double quotation mark, and just write down W, which that means it will start writing on it. Then the second step is we need to have an instance of our date and time to be able to use the object we created from the step one here, from here. So we just write down current time equals to string, because we want to convert whatever the date and time will be to a string. So we have date and time dot, again, date and time, and we have now, which gives us the date, time, and milliseconds as well. So the password file, right, we have to just write down reason password invalid plus current time. And once we wrote those, we need to close our password, but we need to do one more thing to it, which just let me write down the close the file. Then here we need to write down the password equals to input, enter your password again, because none of those attempts were successful. The user has to enter the password again. Equals to length of our password, and we need to print a message, tell the user what happened. So this process here does something different to here. So open the folder, got a time, check the condition. For every time the condition is true, we are going to repeat this process again. So once that everything is ready, once we finish that, the password file is closed. That means it will just doesn't record anything else. To just write down the password as per usual. Is it just letters only, numbers only, or is it strong? Then here we have our password is alpha. Sorry, I had to write down if password is alpha. Then the message will be password is weak. Why is it? Contains letters only. If that is not the case, is true, that means the password is strong or is a combination of letters and numbers. So we have message outcome. Now we need to print our message, which it tells us what happened. So our program is ready. One thing, as I mentioned, we need to just set up, it will be the password length. What is the length of the password that a user is going to enter? By the way, the program hasn't been finished yet, just we want to run it to see what is the outcome it would be. Open up your file to see if the password has been actually recorded or not. Just here, the password at 10. Just want to confirm the name with the file we created here, which is similar to this. Now open it up. Yes, it is recording it, but why do we go? Okay, so I've done something wrong. We were meant to just put a password in one line. That's why, as you see, the password goes crossway. And I think that is the problem when the password saving. And yes, come to where you're writing inside your file after current time, write down plus, double quotation mark, forward slash, lower n. And that will record, that will give a line to each set which the user is going to enter the password. So you will understand what I mean. Once we delete the file you got, run your program again. We need to run our program one more time, and here we just enter a password which is less than 5 and giving one more than 10, and here we just giving the password. Why the password is weak? So that it gives us the password is weak, contains numbers only, and here gives us the length of the password which the user entered. Now go into your file to see what is the outcome. As you see, twice I attempt a password entry, which those two didn't meet the requirements. One was the password was less than 5, the other one the password was greater than 10. So below your print, which gives you the message, the password length, we need to create a variable to get a file and read the content of it. So we can just write down read file equals to open. We need to give us the file name to it, what I've done here, and it will be file password file attempt, and instead of W here we gives it R, and that means read the content inside the file. Now here we just, for each line, let me write down here this code and then I'll tell you what is it and what is it all about. Read file, then print each line and end with single quotation mark. So I created a variable which is going to hold the information inside a folder which we created in our project inside it. Then for each line inside that folder, for each line here, we want to read it and print it. So basically that means the outcome, it should show us once the password is less than 5 characters and once the password has been entered as greater than 10 characters. So that is what is going to the result of this code will be. So run your program. We are going to enter a password less than 5 twice, greater than 10 twice, and we are going to give a number to it. Here we go. It gives us the password is weak, excuse me. And the second one, it gives us the length of the password. And the last one, which it gives us how many times we attempt to enter our password, which that password was less than 5 characters, was greater than 10 characters. So according to this, here is our password, and whatever we enter here is going to be shown here. Before we finish off, I would like to explain it one more time exactly what we've done, and then you have a conclusion of our theory and our practical work. So the first one was the pseudocode. As I mentioned earlier in this video, the pseudocode or flowchart gives you a hand or heads up before you're starting your work, and you know what to expect in each step. And the other reason you write it down, it will be if something goes wrong through your program, it will be easier for you to just come back and see what went wrong, and it will be easier for you to fix a problem. That is it. And the third reason is if you want to just follow this pathway and be a professional programmer, you need to understand how to write your pseudocode and how to write down a flowchart to just going from input or start of the program, process of the program, and end of the program. What does it look like? That aside, now we come into our program or our code side. What we've done, we imported our date and time because we need to record what time and on what date the user attempt to enter a password. We created a file here, we gave a name to it, we gave a format to it, then we set up our minimum password length acceptable by our program to 5, and the maximum length acceptable is 10. We created an object, we asked the user to enter a password, then the character length of the password is going to be entered, it's going to be saved inside this variable. Then here we created another variable which it helps us to open up or creating a file and start writing inside it. Then we are going to have a variable which is hold the current date and time inside it. Then here we check the condition. If the password entered by the user, the length of that password is going to be less than 5 or greater than 10, that is not acceptable, and that means the password won't be accepted by our program. And the next step, we check one more condition. If the password entered is either less than 5 or greater than 10. If it was less than 5, that is the reason. We want to record the reason why we don't accept the password. And the second one will be exactly the same. The difference will be the password entered is greater than 10. Then here we are just going to write down the reasons why the password wasn't accepted by our program and the current date and time which the user entered the password. Then once this process has been finished, and the last step, we need to keep repeating the process and ask the user to enter the password again and again until this condition is not true. And that is the print message. It tells the user, hey, the password that you are going to enter, it needs to be less than 10 or greater than 5. And once everything is finished, here we're just closing our file. That means we don't record anything else afterwards. And our last one to the end section here, that means this condition is not true. The user gets out of that process. And here we check if the user entered password contains letters only or numbers only. If any of those cases is correct or is true, that is what we want to just tell the user why the password hasn't been accepted. If none of these conditions is accepted or is true, that means the password entered by the user is going to be strong. Then in the last step, we printed out the message. It tells us how the password went, give us the password length, what is we expect to see the user is going to see. And in the very end, we created another variable, which that variable is going to open the file which we already created, read the content inside it, and print out the content inside the file. And that is what this file is going to do. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. As per usual, if you do have any question or any section of this video didn't make sense to you, please make sure you write it down in the comment section below and I'll respond to it as quick as I can. And if you are new to this channel and you liked the video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, put a ring bell or notification on so you won't miss out any weekly videos that I upload. Thank you for your time. I'll see you all next week.